I'm Sugar Ray Seals, 1972 Olympic gold medalist, and I'm a fan of the Ringside Boxing Show.
Hi, I'm John H. Tracy, former welterweight champion of the world, and I'm listening to the Ringside Boxing Show.
Hi, this is Jackie Callan, the First Lady of Boxing, and I listen to the Ringside Boxing Show. I hope you guys do too.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show. Welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where very shortly John J. Raspanti and I will be interviewing a former world heavyweight champion whose battles outside the ring were much tougher than those he fought inside the ropes, which is saying a lot because Pinklon Thomas had a 15-year career, 51 bouts that included fights with Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Tommy Morrison, Mike Weaver, Tim Witherspoon, Quick Tillis, Harry Coetzee, Trevor Berbick. He held the WBC heavyweight crown for 2 years during that era, which is saying plenty. What some of you might not know is that Pinklon was addicted to heroin at age 12. He dropped out of school at 15. He got into a life of crime in his teens that led to a strong-armed robbery of a notorious drug house in Pontiac, Michigan. The drug lord put out a contract on his life. All of that happened before he ever threw his first punch in the boxing ring. This is an amazing story, and you're going to hear it from Pinklon Thomas himself in just a little while. Hey, we give you guys something like this just about every week, don't we? Tell your boxing friends about the Ringside Boxing Show. Help us grow, guys. We've got a big heavyweight fight to talk about right now with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman's a professional boxer, trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwaan Zahid is a boxing journalist from Toronto, and John J. Raspanti is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com, and he's the author of 2 books. His most recent one is Blood on My Notebook, Dispatches from the World of Professional Boxing, and before that, John and I co-authored Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy, which became an Amazon bestseller. Hey, Riz, Luis Ortiz was ahead on all 3 scorecards again on Saturday night, and Deontay Wilder did what Deontay Wilder does. He erased him in a split second with a monstrous right hand. That's when you messaged the rest of us with a comment that I think should be in Bartlett's famous quotations when you get famous. You said Deontay Wilder might be the most perfectly flawed fighter in boxing history. I think that's exquisite. Worthy of Larry Merchant in his broadcast heyday. Tell our audience what you meant by that.
Well, I mean, I still don't have Larry Merchant's hair. I mean, that guy's hair is legendary. But what I meant is I've never seen a fighter in boxing history at this level. I'm not talking about, the journeyman. I'm talking about the guys who have been champs. I've never seen a fighter with so many noticeable flaws, but still somehow manages to win over and over and over again. And we're not talking about guys who get, we're not talking about, every fighter has flaws. We're not talking about guys who get away with close decisions. I mean, outside the Fury one, that was a draw. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, I've never seen, and this isn't Arturo Gatti come from behind kind of win either, right? This is what you expect from Wilder fights. He's going to lose pretty much every single round, right? Or at least a lot of them against top tier boxers. But he's possibly going to knock out every single one of those guys too. I've just never seen, first of all, I don't think it's out of the question to say he is the most heavy-handed, greatest knockout puncher in boxing history. I don't think that's out of the question anymore. I think you have to put him in amongst the top 5 just because you could say that, guys were smaller, yada, yada. Wilder, by all notions, is not a heavyweight, right? He's a tall heavyweight, But those guys, every fighter, he's outweighed by like 30 to 40 pounds in every single one of his fights. I mean, realistically, he could make cruiserweight. I wouldn't know what comfortably, but he could make cruiserweight, right? I mean, he's not that far away from cruiserweight. And then you look at what really stands about Wilder to me is that, number one, we talked about this last week. He is a professional, right? He stays in shape throughout the year. We've seen that. And there's certain things he does really well, but I think what's been brilliant about his entire career is that they know what he does wrong. They know that he has a lot of holes in his game. And I think if there's one compliment from Wilder is he has zero head movement. He doesn't move his feet very well either. But so much of his defensive game is his offense. And by that, again, he's not a guy who's throwing in 900 punches or 1,000 punches a fight either. So much of his defense is the threat of a counter punch in return, where we've seen other fighters throw 1,000 punches a fight. You're not going to see a guy throw 1,000 punches against Wilder, because I think he summed it up best himself. I just need to be perfect for 2 seconds. And I think what they've done brilliant with his career is they don't, his trainer, who's a former bronze medalist himself, I believe, what they've done really well is they never said, we're going to turn you into the slick boxer. We're going to turn you into Tommy Hearns. That was never, I don't think, on their agenda. What they've done brilliantly, and what Wilder has embraced himself, is here are all my flaws. I'm just going to try to limit them as much as I can, and I'm just going to cater to my strengths. Now, every fighter tries to do that. I don't think there's any fighter in boxing history who has done that good of a job of just catering towards their strengths and trying to minimize their weaknesses. Because, again, here's the weaknesses from Wilder. He doesn't throw a lot of punches. He's very awkward. He leans back. He doesn't have his hands up. He has zero head movement. There's so many other things I can list, but none of these things matter because he still manages. He just needs to land once, and that's the other thing. There's tons of knockout punchers. There's been tons of brutal, powerful fighters over the years, but sometimes they don't land. Wilder has always managed to land at some point during a fight, and we've seen his power carry in every single round too. People are like, oh well, he just has, and something to know too. When people are like, he doesn't have any talent. He's just a knockout puncher. You know what? Knockout punching is a talent, right? You sometimes just like how you have great athleticism, and again, Wilder has amazing athleticism, phenomenal athleticism. But he takes care of himself, and that's talent, that's discipline, and that caters to how he fights. And what's just incredible to me is we all know his weaknesses. Every fighter in the world knows his weaknesses. He knows his own weaknesses, and no one really, and he doesn't try to shy away from them either. We kind of, we debated how the fight would go last week. I think we all pretty much said it would go something like the way it did yesterday. I'm not surprised that Ortiz was ahead on all the scorecards. I'm not surprised that Ortiz won 5 of the first 6 rounds, and Wilder kind of did nothing up until that point. But Wilder just had to land one shot. I mean, Ortiz, to be honest, if you saw right before, he had a smile on his face and he was super cocky. His hands were just stupidly low for a guy with Wilder's knockout power. But nevertheless, it's pretty much, to me, it's like this now. Unless you're going to be able to decision Wilder or knock him out, actually land a solid enough blow to lock him out, you are not beating Deontay Wilder. Because even if he's the definition of a puncher's chance, right? Like, literally, a guy who has 4 seconds left in a fight can always win by knockout. I mean, despite, all of us thinking that Tyson Fury won the first fight, the knockdown he scored in round 12 was what gave him that draw, right, on the scorecards. In a fight where we probably thought that he won maybe one round up until that point. You just have to be, in so many ways perfect against the guy who's completely imperfect, just because his power is that real, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's a reason he's a heavy favorite. Ortiz is, we really don't know how old the guy is. We've seen him knocked out against Wilder before. We've seen him hurt against other guys before. He has zero head movement himself. But Wilder's knockout power is something, I'm trying to dumb it down, but I really can't. It is out of this world. We've never seen anyone like this, and I don't think we ever will, because again, we've seen a lot of tall, powerful punchers. Like, Tommy Hearns was one of these guys, right? But Tommy Hearns has still been knocked out. Tommy Hearns was still hurt. Tommy Hearns lost on decisions. Because even, at the heavyweight division, everything's magnified. I still don't think Tommy Hearns had anywhere near the power that Deontay Wilder has, because, again, Wilder's also doing it to guys who are 20, 30, 40 pounds heavier than he is, too. I mean, if you look back at the two rematches he's had so far, Bermane-Stiverne, that was his, in the first fight. And if you look at Bermane-Stiverne, the first fight, and Wilder last night, clearly he is much better. Clearly he shoots his punches more straight, and he's smarter with his shots too. So he won a decision there. In the rematch, he said, you know what? I don't have anything to be fearful of. I can take this guy out anytime I want. And he knows that. And I think so much of Wilder's, and that's what made Fury interesting, because you really need to have a sense of fearlessness to fight Deontay Wilder. Because I don't think, even with Ortiz last night, I don't think he was ever fully committing to any punches. You can't fully step in to a shot knowing what potentially is coming back at you. And because he is so flawed because he's not throwing punches the way any normal fighter would throw, you don't know where these punches are coming from either, right? They're winging wide left hooks, but they just, because of his athleticism, they land as crisp and as quick as a check hook, right? It's just, he's an anomaly. He's an athletic freak who has catered just to what he does well. And what's amazing also is he realizes now there's no panic when he's down on the scorecards. He's down on the scorecards all the time now. But he just figures, I'm still standing. That means I just need to land a shot. I just need to land one shot. And the thing is, again, he's not one of these guys who has a lot of power but can't seem to land, right? He's not gassed in round 10. Even if he isn't gassed in round 10, he still has more power than pretty much every other fighter in the world. So I just think that it's amazing that the guy has so many flaws. You would never teach anyone to do the stuff Wilder does. You would never teach him to have you never teach a boxer to have such a wide stance and throw looping shots and step into a right hand where he's off balance. You never teach a fighter to do any of those things. But it works. And if it works, then no one can say that, no fighter should be doing that. The amazing thing is, would anyone be surprised if Deontay Wilder fights Joshua, Fury, and Ruiz and loses all three of those fights? No one would be surprised. Would it be surprising if he wins all those fights by first round knockout? No one would be surprised. He is the ultimate wild card, and because we've seen it against, we've seen him get outboxed by very mediocre fighters, right? A very old Chris Arreola, Spielska, who was a blown up cruiserweight at best, Gerald Washington, you know what I mean? Like guys who are not, very skilled boxers whatsoever. But he was down on every single one of those scorecards, and every single one of them he finishes with a highlight reel knockout. It is something crazy, and I think honestly, despite his crazy flawed ways, he is one of the most impressive fighters I think I've ever seen, just because what he can do at any given moment. And it's crazy to think that we will say something like this, but I don't think you could ever say that any fighter in boxing history would for sure beat Deontay Wilder, just because that power that exists. You can say all these guys would outbox him, but we saw with Fury outboxed him for 11 rounds and was almost staring at death 30 seconds later. And I think the only reason, and I talked about fearlessness, I think the only reason Fury was able to be in that position during that fight is because of what he's been through personally. That allowed him to fearlessly box Deontay Wilder. It allowed him to get into the trenches. It allowed him to be willing to take a shot in return and stay on his game plan. And I think in some ways that's why he was potentially maybe the only person to beat Wilder, because unless you have that level of fearlessness and that commitment to your own shots, you're not going to beat the guy who can, unless you're able to stay up for 12 rounds. That's pretty much the only way Fury won that fight, right? If he didn't get knocked down, if you manage to not get hurt by Deontay Wilder for 12 rounds, for 36 minutes, you will win 12 rounds to nothing maybe, but you might win 11 and a half rounds and still be knocked out. I don't think I could say it any other way. He is the most perfectly flawed fighter in boxing history, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like this ever again.
John, Riz just alluded to something that you and I were talking about before we came on the air today. In the hours leading up to the fight, I strongly considered doing something I've never done before. I almost placed a bet on a boxer, on Luis Ortiz. And here was my rationale. He's a much better technical fighter than Wilder, which he showed in their first fight when he was ahead on all cards that night too. He got hit with a bomb and was knocked out. He's got a great ring IQ, which made me think that if either one of them had learned something significant from that first fight, it was probably Ortiz. Logic told me that if Ortiz could use that intellect and those lessons to avoid whatever mistake he made in that first fight, this one had a good chance of going the distance. And if it did, there was no question in my mind Ortiz was going to win by decision. And fortunately, I got lazy and kept my money in my pocket. And it's hard for me to start talking about Wilder in the same sentence with the all-time great heavyweights, because as a fighter, he's a complete mess in so many ways. But the guy is now 42-0 with one draw and 41 knockouts. The only guy who went the distance, two guys who went the distance with him, Stavern got knocked out in the first round of the rematch, and the other one, Tyson Fury, was almost knocked out there in the 11th round. If Wilder retired today, he's in the Hall of Fame, isn't he?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And what you were talking about, your reasoning was perfectly reasonable. That's the point. I mean, you were going by logic, but Deontay Wilder is not logical. He's illogical. I mean, that's the thing with him. You can dissect him all you want and try to figure out what's going to happen, and it will happen for 50 minutes out of 51 or 50 and a half minutes, and then boom, like last night, he'll end the fight, and you'll be like, oh, like that. I mean, that was my reaction. Oh, and it's amazing. He is what Riz said, and he does have all those flaws, and it blows my mind too that they don't try to do anything about him, and I don't understand that part. I mean, getting away from that incredible victory from last night, it's going to come back to bite him, like we were saying. That you can't keep doing this. How many times can you go to the well and get the bomb? I mean, he's defying all logic, like we said, and he's winning, but it can't keep happening, right? Or can it? I mean, that's the big thing.
Or can it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about Wilder that in a way I love. I mean, I like him. I know there are a lot of people don't like him. I think he's genuine. I think a lot of what he did was just to try to get more interest. I think he's a good person. But what I don't get is what his trainer is thinking about. Okay, well, we're not going to like Riz. You're never going to make him a slick boxer. But I equate him with Dennis. I was thinking of Riz. I equate him with the slam dunk champion in basketball, where a lot of, like me, when I played basketball, I was a bomber from the outside, and I would think, a guy who could dunk, that doesn't take any talent. Okay, he can jump real high, big deal. I was thinking it takes more skill to be able to shoot from 25 feet like me and make a number of shots, but no, it takes some real athleticism like Wilder has, and some real skill to be able to time his shots like he does. I mean, that one last night was perfect. It was right on the button. It came out of nowhere. Ortiz might have got a little cocky, you're right, but all of that, put that all aside, Wilder still had to execute. He still had to deliver it perfectly, and like a perfect dunk, in a sense. They used to hold up a 10. That was a 10, a 10 count.
Yeah.
That was a perfect knockout. So for that, he gets all the props from me. The other stuff is going to drive everybody. He's always going to be controversial because of his flaws. We know that. But you remember what the Raiders used to say and still do, just win, baby. And he just keeps doing it, even though we keep scratching our head but until somebody can take his punch. I mean, Stavern took his punch in the first fight, but he still lost, right? He's going to keep winning, and then, of course, we have the Fury rematch, and we have all those intangibles. I'm sure you want to talk about that. But, yeah, Deontay Wilder is the most illogical heavyweight in history because of everything he does wrong in there. And if you're a dad and your son wants to be a fighter, I'm sure you say, don't watch him. Don't watch what he does. That isn't what you do. You don't throw 5 or 6 punches around. You just wait you load up on your right hand. I mean, he was doing a few other things last night. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he was throwing more left hooks than I'd ever seen him, or more, maybe I forgot about his left hooks. But it's just an amazing, and Riz said something too that I thought of too. Going into the 7th round, obviously his corner had to know that he had lost every round pretty much. But they were, including Wilder especially, were totally calm. There was no panic. There was no nervousness. The trainer didn't go all Angelo Dundee and go, you're blowing it, kid. None of that. Just stayed with the plan, whatever the plan was. I mean, is that what you say as a trainer? Just keep doing what you're doing. It'll come. I guess that's what you say, right? But it's just incredible what he's amazed he's doing in this flawed heavyweight time, and in a way maybe that's right, because we have the flawed heavyweight. But when he fights Joshua, if he does, it's going to be crazy. But first he's got to fight Fury. But he's amazing to watch. He's going to go down in history, like I said, when they announce him into the Boxing Hall of Fame. It's going to be interesting to hear the announcement about what he was. I mean, I described him last night as a praying mantis with a muscular praying mantis, because that's what he reminds me of. His wingspan, his height, all that stuff. I mean, it's hard to fight him in some ways because he seems like he can catch you with that right hand, and he's accurate. So he is, again, the most illogical heavyweight champion in history.
Yeah, and you guys said it. You know, the guy weighed 219 pounds for this fight. Wasn't he like 211 or 213 or something for Fury? My God, you know, this is the most feared fighter on the planet. He's 219 pounds in a world where guys are 260, 250, 240, 235. They're all huge. Riz, if you're Anthony Joshua or Andy Ruiz at this point, what is your level of confidence about beating Deontay Wilder?
I think every fighter is confident beating Wilder, just because I think they all think they can outskill him, and they're all absolutely correct. And I think they all think that they'll be able to stand up to his punches, and that's the issue. I don't think there's any fighter who's thinking, "Oh, this guy's going to knock me out." They're all thinking, "He has zero skill. I can outskill him," and they're definitely correct. What will be interesting to see is how Ruiz does against Joshua in the rematch, even if he loses. Because I think that Joshua is better skilled than Wilder. I think most of us agree with that. And even if you remember, the Joshua punch that knocked Ruiz down was a hellacious left hook. It's a shot that knocks out most fighters. Now, if that shot lands by Wilder on Ruiz, does that mean Ruiz gets up and he's still in the fight? Because if so, then Wilder is going to have his hands full with the guys like Ruiz too. Because Ruiz is and I think we saw it against the Joshua fight. I mean, how many times do you see a guy knocked down like that, get up, and then, you know, he's just there for the taking? And Joshua was aiming to finish, but Ruiz still had the wherewithal to bob and weave and have better head movement to land a shot. And I think Ruiz's skill will give him a pretty good chance against a guy like Wilder, despite their, I mean, just a weird body difference, right? One guy's short and pudgy, the other one's tall and lanky, but because of that, you know, Ruiz can get inside. Ruiz can land body, but Ruiz can do different things. And I think Ruiz is a smart enough boxer. And again, you have to remember, Ortiz is not young by any means. I think Ruiz throws more punches and if he can get inside and Joshua can't really use that range, you know, then it's different, right? It's harder for Wilder to really let his shots go. So I think Ruiz is definitely more. I think any fight with Ruiz is just an intriguing matchup for just, you know, so many of the same way. I mean, if you go back a couple of years when we talked about the heavyweight division, and we discussed this, that I said that when Klitschko leaves, you're going to see some entertaining fights. We're going to see just, it's a new crop at heavyweights. We knew that was going to happen, but you're also going to see zero stability. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of very entertaining fights. We're seeing a lot of potential mixes and matches, and there's new players who can come in, anytime, right? You can see, would you be surprised if Jarrell Miller just has a fight with one of these guys and pulls off an upset? Again, a 320-pound giant too. I mean, if he's able to take Wilder's punches, what happens? He's a guy that throws a lot of punches. But what you're going to see, you're not going to see a dominant heavyweight. I don't think. Does anyone, despite Wilder's power, do we expect him to remain undefeated for the next 10 years, a la Klitschko? Because I most certainly don't. That being said,
no.
After last night, what the hell do I know, right? Wilder can still knock out anyone at any time. He might lose in the next 10 years. He might lose every single one of these rounds and win every single one by knockout. So I think every fighter is in some ways fearful, but also looking at their chops against a guy like Wilder. Because I mean, let's face it. Let's go kind of the other end of the spectrum. If Ortiz is that out of shape and that old and throwing 15, 20 punches around, and if he was able to be up, let's say, 5 rounds to 1, 4 rounds to 2 against Wilder, could you imagine the fighters that have more skill and more youth and what they'd be able to do? I think I always said Usyk's a problem for everyone in the division because I just think he's the most skilled. That being said, he's never ever faced a punch like Wilder's either. What's amazing is that anyone can kind of beat everyone here, which is very strange. Fury's seems like it's up next. Wilder kind of unofficially announced that it's going to be happening in February at some time, which is a very short turnaround, right? Under 3 months. So that's going to be that'll be interesting. And again, what we're talking about right now, we might not. The heavyweight division now more than ever. You might see guys lose 3 in a row and win 3 in a row, and matchups more than ever, and style matchups mean so much. It's amazing how much has changed in this division, and it's amazing how I don't think any loss is going to write anyone off, right? I don't think anyone thinks that Joshua is going to lose against Ruiz necessarily because of the first fight. I don't think even if Joshua does lose against Ruiz, that doesn't mean, depending on how he loses in a rematch, if he does, that doesn't mean he can't beat Wilder. That doesn't mean Ruiz is going to beat Wilder because he beats or loses against Joshua. So I think the amount of intriguing matchups that are here are very, very interesting. And what's amazing also is that in the heavyweight division, we're going to see some upsets. We're going to see some wars. It's just going to be so unpredictable. And, the unpredictability might not mean legendary status, right? These guys might not be at Klitschko's level in the Hall of Fame, but it's definitely going to be an era to remember.
This is what's so exciting about the heavyweight division, because I think I know that both of you guys are going to pick Tyson Fury to beat Wilder. After all we've seen from Wilder, Fury's probably, you think he's probably going to beat him. When I'm thinking about Fury, and I wish Travis was here because he's our professional boxer. I'd love to ask him this question. But John, Fury in that 11th round was staring at the lights. He was seeing the white light. He was going through that tunnel. He was glimpsing the afterlife after he got hit with that punch. And somehow he got up before the count of 10 and he finished the fight. But if you're Tyson Fury, I wonder what kind of baggage that is in your brain that you got hit that hard and that you were hurt that badly. Even though, you probably got confidence, well, I got up that time, I can get up again. But damn it, he knows what can happen to him now. He knows how lethal that punch is. He's got to feel like he can outpoint Wilder if it goes the distance, and if he survives the fight, like he did the first time. But he just barely survived that fight the first time. So I'm wondering psychologically what you think his baggage is going to be coming into that rematch.
Well, he's already mentioned that there is some. He mentioned that he said that when he fought Otto Valen that he wasn't sure. I mean, if he got hit, does that mean that his chin wasn't any good anymore? he's been knocked down, but he always gets up. He's got a solid chin. But, yeah, it's in the back of his mind. And when he saw Ortiz, if he was watching, and he can deny watching, but he'll see tape of it, I'm sure, because his trainer was there watching, it'll bring back bad memories. It has to. I mean, these guys are human. The fact that you get in there with a guy like Wilder, knowing that he could send you to dreamland any second, is obviously incredibly gutsy that they do it. Fury's such a good boxer, but he knows that one punch from that guy, that's it. And one right hand or left hand, and you're gone. And he's going to bring that in with him somewhere in the back of his mind, but he's going to be focused on boxing and trying to stay away. But the second fight will probably be very much like the first fight, in the sense that, you've got Fury outboxing Wilder, but then Wilder's just waiting like he does. And if the guy gets a little bold, that's when Wilder, or a little confident, overconfident, or whatever, that's when Wilder pounces. So, like I said, Fury is a very honest guy, and he mentioned that going into his last fight, that he was even wondering about what could happen. So if he gets hit by Wilder again, that might be it. I mean, he might get knocked out this time. He handled Valen's power, like we said, but there's no pass. We just spent 20-some minutes talking about it. Nobody's got any power like Wilder. Wilder hits you on the chin. That's it. So that part of it psychologically is going to be tough for Fury, but I'm sure he's ready. Fury is, as we know, he's a little crazy. He's actually extremely entertaining too, and a little nutty. You got to be a little different to be a boxer anyway. You're right. I wish Travis was here to talk about what they risk to get in there for our entertainment. But it makes the rematch even more intriguing as far as I'm concerned, as with what you just mentioned, and Wilder's incredible power. That's going to be the build-up. Will it happen again? Will this time Fury not get up? Will Fury... Fury's going to say, I'm going to just outbox him and not get hit. But, So that's going to be what we're going to be waiting for in February when they're in the ring. We're going to be seeing what we think we're seeing, but just like a blink of the eye, it could change. So, Fury's thinking about it. Wilder might even be thinking about more than a few times, I think, that when Fury got up, he fought back and rattled him, wobbled him. So there's a lot of respect there. But yeah, those two knockdowns, especially that last one, where Fury looked done, somehow got up, as we've spoke about lots of times. He's thinking about it, I'm sure, but he can't be focused on that when he fights in February. He's got to be focused on what he's got to do. But man, that one's going to be fun, Dennis. These heavyweights, I'll say this: they might be flawed, all of them, but they're fun, and the fights are entertaining.
I was watching an interesting debate this week too, and you guys are probably seeing it too, about whether Luis Ortiz and Andy Ruiz and even Anthony Joshua were helping themselves by slimming down. Ortiz had a noticeably flatter stomach against Wilder this time than he did last time. Ruiz has been comically flabby when he knocked out Joshua in June, and that was one of the biggest upsets in recent heavyweight history. And he's reportedly trying to slim down a lot for the rematch, which is 2 weeks away, December 7th. Joshua, who famously has that Greek god physique, looked huge for his first fight with Ruiz, and supposedly he's slimming down for their second fight. He's trading bulk for tone. So first of all, Riz, here's something that Freddie Roach had to say earlier this week about Ruiz losing weight for the Joshua rematch. I'm going to play a real quick clip for you guys. Here it goes.
I like him better fat. I've already said he's always fought better when he's heavier. He absorbs punches well. He throws the best combination in the world. He won the world title being a fat guy. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with being a fat guy, Riz? Is that you think Freddie's right that Ruiz is just fine the way he is and doesn't have to get down to 235, 240 to win this one?
I mean, maybe in the dating world, it's being fat is okay, but I think in the athletic world, I think it matters. I don't think it's the same. But, you know, again, I think we're just seeing, like, just like Wilder, everything that's flawed, everything that's wrong, you would say not to do. With Ruiz, again, and so Freddie does have a point. He did win the heavyweight title this way. He managed to get off the floor and win. So is he doing something wrong? But here's something to note, and I think this does matter. Ruiz, early in his career was significantly fatter than he is now, right? He was like high 200s. I think when he started boxing, it was like 320 or something ridiculous. So, you know, he's already done, you know, it's not like this is not the James Toney situation where he just got bigger and bigger and bigger and his skills diminished. I think his skills have already gotten better as he's lost weight. So now, does that mean another 20 pounds and that means he's that much better? I'm not sure. But we've seen, you know, he went 12 with Joseph Parker, and I think he was in, you know, I don't think he needs to lose that much weight just because I don't think, and this goes both ways, right? I don't think guys who go up 3 divisions and add on sudden weight end up usually doing better. You know, Canelo's situation, we saw that fight, that was Canelo's clear natural weight. So I think the same goes the other way around. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think Ruiz needs to lose 20, 30 pounds. And again, because he did win the first one. And if you remember watching the fight, who looked more gassed in round 7? It was Joshua, right? Joshua was the one who looked heavier. And that is worth knowing because scientifically speaking, larger muscles require more oxygen. So that's why guys who are bulky and muscular slow down later. And that's why, you know, Wilder, to me, like Wilder's, you know, nothing but lean, very lean muscle, and that's why his power carries in round 11 and round 12. So for Ruiz, the funny thing is he throws punches in bunches. He throws great combinations. He has good head movement. And if you've seen him train, you know, he does move quite well. So I don't think the issue is, you know, it's not him. He's not going to lose weight by training more. I don't think it's a question of that. I just think he's probably like, you know what, I can clean up my nutrition a little bit. And I don't think they're doing drastic changes, but it's enough that I think the way the fight played out, I don't think they expected to go and knock Joshua out. I think he survived an onslaught and gave an onslaught of his own and got him out of there. But I think what the original plan was for the first fight, and I'm assuming what the plan is for here, is to outbox Joshua. And I think their thinking is they have to be able to go 12 rounds. And I think it's, you know, it would be very short-sighted to think that Joshua is just going to come in and try to blow him out of the water. And all of a sudden the fight is going the distance and you just slow down in rounds 11 and 12. You really don't want that to happen. So I do think he's going to come in a little lighter. I don't expect him to come in, you know, 30, 40 pounds lighter. It looks like he'll probably come 10 or 15 pounds lighter, which to be honest is reasonable. I think that's the equivalent of a boxer almost just, or like a middleweight going down a division, right? In terms of numbers, that's what, I don't know, 5% of his weight, give or take, right? So that's, you know, I don't think it's that, it'll strike you a little more just in terms of numbers, but I mean, we've seen guys like Kovalev weigh in the same on a weigh-in day, but look in way better shape, right? So I don't think it's that much different. And again, I don't think he's changing, you know, he's not transforming his body. We're not seeing a guy go from, you know, he's not going to come in at 220 pounds or 210 pounds and looking like Wilder. That's not happening. So I think they're finding the right balance. They're going to keep to what he is, but, you know, they understand that Joshua himself is going to correct his mistakes. Joshua is not going to say, I'm just going to go there and do what I did again. And something to note, I don't think I've read one quote from Anthony Joshua in the last 3 months. Like, he must be in just super laser focus mode, which is just, you know, for a guy of his stature and his celebrity status and how famous he is, that's different. And I think it requires that amount of focus. So, you know, a lot of people have commented on Joshua's pictures himself, saying he looks a lot more lean. Not that he was ever, you know, out of shape, but he just looks lighter and more mobile. And I think that's the thinking here with Ruiz. He doesn't want to be, you know, he's not trying to lose power or lose anything else. He just wants to have a little better conditioning so he can go 12 rounds, because I think it'd be foolish to think that Ruiz is going there looking for a knockout again. I think he's just planning to use his skill to outbox Joshua. And you got to remember this too. That wasn't the original fight the first time around. He was a fill-in opponent for Jarrell Miller, and because of that, he was probably more out of shape than he would have been anyways. So I think now he's just kind of going through a full training camp for a fight now. I don't think, win, lose, or draw, I don't think anyone's going to look at this and say, oh, this is the reason, he won or lost because he was in significantly better shape or he lost fat and that was the problem. I think that's the wrong thing to kind of focus on here. I think the idea is this: no matter who you are, you're going to be the best. If you can be the best version of yourself, whatever that is, and that creates a W, that's all that matters. For Wilder, that means just landing a punch at any time, right? For Ruiz, it might just be losing another 5 pounds so he has better conditioning to go 12. Whatever results in the W, I don't think you need to justify anything else to anyone. I don't think Wilder never needs to justify why he loses, 6 rounds before he scores a knockout, because in the end he wins the fight and he gets the knockout. So I think everyone kind of needs to take a step back and just look at what the end result is, and then you can evaluate and see if there's something that needs to be done. So what happens if Ruiz loses 10 pounds and he loses against Joshua? Should that mean he should get fatter? I don't think so, right? So I think Ruiz at this point knows what he's doing with his career, so I'm going to allow him. And if he's saying he wants to lose weight, I'm not going to stop him from doing so.
John, feel free to pitch in on that topic, but I also want to throw this one at you. Canelo Alvarez and his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, have been taking some incoming fire in recent days from conspiracy theorists who are accusing them of using the rehydration clauses to dehydrate their opponents before fights, just as a strategy, I guess. Canelo and Reynoso insisted that they have a rehydration clause for Kovalev, which Canelo won by a knockout in the 11th round on November 2nd, and he also imposed rehydration clauses when he fought Danny Jacobs and Rocky Fielding and Chavez Jr. Is a rehydration clause a weapon for a fighter like Canelo, or is it something that all fighters should insist on when they're fighting somebody, a weight division higher or so, which was the case with Canelo against Kovalev? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dennis. I don't think that was a big deal with Kovalev. I think he even walks around it at probably 180, 182, 183. So his rehydration wasn't much higher than. I don't think it was a problem. I think what happened to Kovalev was age, and he was trying to win a decision. I think also the fact that he hadn't really recovered from his last fight. I think those things all played into it. And then, of course, the way he is as a fighter, he tends to get tired. Even when he has time to recover, he gets a little tired, and he's an older version of himself. And he was doing different things, and he got caught. And it was as simple as that. People love conspiracy theories. I've never read a more recent fight so much where that fight was fixed. Amazing how social media has Kovalev taking a dive. I haven't seen guys take a dive and get knocked out like that. That isn't usually the script.
Nope.
When you take a dive, you get hit on the side of the head and fall down. You don't get knocked you get wobbled and then you get hit with a perfect right hand and go down. You don't even know where you are for a number of minutes. So, you don't know. Canelo and his team, they're always looking for an edge. I don't blame people that are looking for an edge in boxing. I mean, if you can get it and you're Canelo, you can get anything. See, that's what causes people not to like him, is that in his position, he can pretty much demand anything he wants. And Mayweather did that. When you get to be the top guy who makes the most money, you can do it. So I don't know really enough about it to really give a really good opinion, other than if you can get it, fine. But there might be something to it because he's the smaller guy. He's coming up. And that could be a problem for a guy, a bigger person, to not gain more weight and try to stick with whatever the rule is. But with rehydration, we have to ask Travis that again too to see how that works. But they're always going to get criticized just because they always seem to have to set these little rules on everything, and it's wrong. I don't like how they do it. Like I said, I understand why they do it. That doesn't mean that I like that they do it. Now, as far as Ruiz, obviously there's no problem with the heavyweights about rehydration, so they can be as big as they want. See, the problem that Joshua has with Ruiz is his hand speed. I don't care if he's a fat man or if he's thinner. His hand speed is so good that's always going to be a problem for Joshua, because Ruiz is such a good counterpuncher that issue will be there. And you were talking about Tyson Fury, wondering about, thinking about being knocked out or almost knocked out by Wilder. What about Joshua? What about the psychological problems going into that fight too now? I mean, that's why he's been staying out of away from the media and not talking about it, because he is entrenched. He is down in the basement working on everything he can to get ready. He knows his career isn't exactly on the line, but he has to win this fight. And that he hasn't forgotten about what happened to him. He's a pretty deep guy, He spent, I'm sure, a lot of time thinking about that. So he has to remove that to a point, not completely, because you can't, I don't think, to fight Ruiz again and have a strong strategy. And think, if I go in there to try to knock this guy out, he's going to throw those counter punches at me, and he's going to be aiming at my temple, and will that be it again? Will he do it to me again? So it's the amazing thing about boxing. It's an individual sport. You can get all ready all you want with all your team, but then when the bell rings, it's just you and the other guy, and that guy did a number on you the last time. So similar circumstances as far as that goes. But I like we said, I love this because we can break it down in so many ways, but ultimately we don't know what's going to happen, and that's what makes boxing so phenomenal.
All right, last topic for you guys. Mayweather claims he's coming back in 2020. Says he plans to fight twice. One at the new Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. He's got plans to work with Dana White and wants a Pacquiao rematch, and also another MMA crossover fight in 2020. He's been being called out already by Canelo and Terrence Crawford. Riz, first of all, you believe he's coming back? Secondly, you know what? He hasn't had a meaningful fight since 2015 when he fought Pacquiao. That's going to be 4 years. What shot does he have to beat Pacquiao at age? What's he going to be? 43? But his birthday's in February. After not fighting anybody except Conor McGregor for the past 4 years.
I don't think he's coming back. I think what I've noticed, anytime Mayweather pops up in anything, is that he just starved for attention. Anytime there's debate on other fighters and other big fights and other, when he's not the story at all, I think he just needs to toss his name in there. And I think it's a little disappointing for Crawford to want any interest in that. I mean, I understand every fighter wants to fight him for the cash that there is, but with so many other fighters and there's so many other intriguing fights in the division, why do you want to fight a 43-year-old who's been retired? And in so many ways, I think so much of boxing's problems, especially over the last decade, stem from Mayweather and Pacquiao with the long wait for the fight to happen. And the fight finally did happen. I mean, we expected it to go that way, but it was, by all conceived notions, it was a dud. It was an entertaining fight. And no one expected, a lot of people expected that. But so to me, I don't think he's coming back. I mean, literally just a few days ago, he said, "I'm never coming back." Now it's like, maybe I'm coming back because you guys want to talk about Wilder and you guys want to talk about guys getting one-punch knockout. So, I need to put my name in here. And I just don't think I just think he likes to test the waters. Now, he said, before his major comeback was an exhibition fight in Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes an exhibition fight. And I don't blame him for doing so. People are going to pay you, $100 million or whatever it is to fight, an amateur. Then why wouldn't you do that? That is that's an easy money. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does something like that. They say he's again in touch with Dana White. You have to remember that Dana White does host some the UFC channel hosts some boxing fights themselves now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hold a sort of fight or maybe an exhibition fight that airs on that network or something like that. So that way they don't have to, Mayweather doesn't have to go through DAZN or Top Rank or ESPN or any of those sort of things. So But as far, I think there's a difference. I think the important thing to note here is there's a difference between him saying I'm coming back and him going to be in a meaningful fight, because I don't think the latter's happening. I think he'll come back for an exhibition fight. I think he'll come back for one of those kind of showcases. I think he'll come back for one of these UFC fighters who says they want to box with Mayweather, because we all know Mayweather's definitely not getting an MMA octagon. That's just not happening. Yeah. There's absolutely no way that happens. Not against a guy who's 30 pounds. It's just not going to happen. And to be honest, I don't expect him to, and I'm not saying he should either. But I have no interest in I also watching an MMA fighter fight him, because it's a different sport, right? I don't want to watch. Yeah. I don't want to watch LeBron play golf, right? And nor do I want to watch Tiger Woods play basketball. It's a different sport. It has no consequence to anything. So, and again, what we just talked about Wilder for the last hour, right? We talked about Ruiz fighting Joshua, next week. We talked about potential Canelo fights and this and that, and all of a sudden we're all forgetting about Mayweather, Pacquiao, and this is what we kind of talked about a little while ago, that guys like Mayweather, they're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be remembered, but I don't think they're going to be missed. And again, him and Pacquiao really just stopped boxing almost for 5 years, right? And so many guys have emulated their kind of business model after them, and that's why it's refreshing to see guys who are not really like that. I don't think Deontay Wilder has made we all kind of hoped he fought Joshua before, but he's not I don't think he pretends to be anything that he's not. I think that's the case with a lot of fighters nowadays, but there's a certain crop of fighters who have emulated themselves after that they need to feel like they're going to be the bad boy of the division. They're going to be the bad boy of the sport. I don't think they need to I don't think a lot of fighters seem that you need to do that now. So I think Pacquiao has come back and he's had some decent fights, but I think boxing has really moved on from Mayweather and Pacquiao, at least that generation, just because of how many potential other intriguing fights there were. I don't think that boxing needs those guys. I think if there's one thing you've seen, especially with boxing, there's very few guys who are well above the sport, right? Ali was one of those guys. Tyson was one of those guys. But most guys are not, and that includes even guys like Roy Jones. I mean, because they're not guys who have changed and transcended the sport and transcended audiences. I don't think Mayweather's really done that, and that's why I think he needs to, and that's why we're not just constantly talking about him, because I think again, you'll remember him, but you're not going to miss him. And I think, see, Andre Ward, I think in some ways is the same, right? You remember him, but you're not going to, crave any fights he's in. But the difference with Andre Ward is he's perfectly fine with that. Andre Ward willingly stepped aside early because he said, that's it. I'm my time is up. That's it. Andre Ward is not a guy who constantly craves attention. I think that's kind of the drastic difference. I think John has touched on this before too with Andre, that they said, hey, you could get a lot more money if you change your image. And Andre is like, no, I'm not doing that. That's not who I am. I think in some ways, to me, Mayweather was never like that, but now has kind of become like that. And I think he's surprised now. I think he's surprised that the attention is not really on him. The funny thing is, he's actually done a decent job with certain fighters in terms of promoting them. With certain fighters, not so much. But again, we're going to see. I think we'll see him in the ring next year. I think we'll see some video of him in the ring. I don't think it's going to be a meaningful fight whatsoever against any of the top tier boxers right now.
Next week, these guys are going to tell you who wins the Joshua-Ruiz rematch. We got the best team of analysts on boxing radio right here. Rizwaan, Zahid, and John J. Raspanti. Travis couldn't be with us today. Top drawer stuff as always, guys. Thank you very much. And by the way, congratulations to Travis Hartman, who popped the question a couple of days ago to his longtime girlfriend, pro tennis player, Irina Falcone. And she said yes, despite the fact that he tried to hit her in the forehead with a raw egg earlier in the week. That is true love, guys. So, thanks, fellas.
That's amazing. All right.
Hey, we are about 1 minute away from our featured guest. John J. Raspanti and I are going to be interviewing former heavyweight king Pinklon Thomas, and he's got a riveting story to tell about his life. This is an interview you do not want to miss. We'll be back in 1 minute with that.
You're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show, the hottest, sweatiest show on West Coast radio.
I'm Dennis Taylor, co-author of the Amazon bestseller Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. You know, writing this book was a labor of love for John J. Raspanti and myself. We enjoyed every minute of the process and considered it a privilege to tell the tale of one of the most electrifying boxing trilogies in the history of this sport. Intimate Warfare traces the collision course of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward from their earliest days through their 3 epic fights, as well as the aftermath of this great rivalry, which culminated in one of the greatest friendships in boxing. Intimate Warfare has received a 4.5-star rating from readers and was endorsed by Hall of Famers Harold Letterman and Joe Cortez and 2-time Trainer of the Year Virgil Hunter. Our foreword was written by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another one of the greatest blood and guts fighters of our time. Get your copy today at Amazon.com.
It's the 8th round coming down toward the halfway mark. What a right hand by Pinklon Thomas. And I mean one of the great one-punch knockdowns and probably knockouts. This is what I believe is going to be over. Let's see. It's over. It's all over. And I mean just like that. If there was ever a question about the right hand of Pinklon Thomas, it was answered right there, Ray.
Well, I was saying earlier that he was going light jabs and waiting to drop the bomb, and he did just that. I didn't think, we all figured that Thomas didn't have a good right hand, but he showed people that right hand do exist.
I want to tell you, you don't see a lot of one-punch knockouts in the heavyweight division too much anymore. That was just about as picture-perfect as you can expect.
It was executed so perfect. He took his time, he set up Mike Weaver, and he just released that right hand.
Another one of the great fights, too. He had a tough opponent on his hands tonight. I think the last time we saw him fight Tim Witherspoon, Ray,
Hey, welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Raspanti, and today's featured guest was the WBC heavyweight champion of the world from August 1984 to March of 1986. Pinklon Thomas also held the IBO and WBF belts during a 51-bout pro career that spanned from 1978 to 1993 and included fights with Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Tommy Morrison, Quick Tillis, Harry Coetzee, Tim Witherspoon, Mike Weaver, that's the clip you just heard, and Trevor Berbick, just to mention a few. In retirement, he's got a foundation called Project Pink, Pride in Neighborhood Kids. He's also a motivational speaker, and he's got a book out, published in 2017, called Back from the Edge of Hell, the autobiography of 2-time world heavyweight champion Pinklon Thomas, which he wrote with John Greenberg. Pinklon, what a great pleasure to talk to you on the Ringside Boxing Show. Thanks so much for making some time for us today. How are you, sir?
Hey, everything is great, man. Everything was cool. I didn't hold the WBF belt, but I was the first IBO heavyweight champion. I wanted to get that straight because, nothing phony or fictitious about the Pink Man.
Okay. All right. We stand corrected. Hey, boxing fans who followed the sport in the 1980s, most of them are probably pretty familiar with your boxing career, but I'm not sure they know what your backstory is, which your collaborator, John Greenberg, describes very eloquently in Back from the Edge of Hell. Let's talk first about the road you chose as a young boy growing up in Pontiac, Michigan. You came from a pretty good family, solid family, good parents. Talk to us a little bit about who your parents were and how you wound up straying.
Well, I tell you, it's something that goes on periodically every day up until this moment. Kids, be impressed by something new that they may see, or they want to try, or be influenced and encouraged. And I was one of them guys. Because I was big for my age, I like hanging out with guys who were a little older than me, and their brothers and sisters were the ones who were my age I went to school with, But I ended up doing the things that they were doing, which was a little bit over our head at that time. And I got caught up in the rhythm, And the next thing you know, like I was just off to the races. So I'm thinking that, I'm doing a big deal and, that I'm better than everybody else. And, school wasn't really my end goal. And I could, master. I had a master plan. And my master plan literally was suicide as a young kid.
Wow. Yeah, your autobiography says that you were addicted to heroin at 12, quit school at 15, committed some armed robberies, stole something from a drug lord, and were hunted by hired killers. Can you talk about some of that stuff for us?
Yes.
Well, as I said, I was on the verge of suicide, not suicide, but just really putting myself out there to be killed. Or to take somebody out and go and be messed up for the rest of my life. But I only can say, and I have to say, first of all, only through the grace of God that I'm still here today to talk about it. And I choke up sometimes because I know that I can't even begin to fathom, how, when, where. It all how I managed to make it to this point because all the guys I went to, hung out with or went to school with or did the things I would either was in jail, penitentiary, or dying of incurable disease as of today, So, but I got caught up at a young age and, just doing petty armed robberies and, strong arm robberies to armed robberies to, of course, running from doing them to the dope house to get dope to take care of my habit. And, and what was real crazy was that I thought that I had it licked, I had an idea because I played sports. I was a good athlete. So I played basketball. It was a team called the Junior Caporal. They wouldn't let me play on the schools in junior high and high school because my attitude and personality, I was just outspoken. So, but it was one little coach named Bobby who took me up under his wing, and, I really liked Bobby, and he was a mentor. And he said no matter what, that he was going to keep me up under his wing. And I stayed there, and I did my number. I trained, and I became a hell of a basketball player. And now I'm playing basketball by day, robbing at night, using drugs, and the next thing you know, I pick up a dope house, and the dope house is one of the sponsors who's sponsoring our basketball team. Back in the 70s, back in the day, you go to New York, Philadelphia, we had teams, and they was just looking out for the youth, Back in the day, that's where it was. When you didn't have a break, we were sponsored by that team because all the coaches on the school teams had really kicked us all off. So we was like the reject. We was the ones who nobody thought that, was going to make it. So Bobby took us, trained us, got us going, and he formed the AAU team, and we traveled and did a number. We even turned around for all the guys who, when they won, how they'll form a team with all the best players, an all-star team in the city from all the high schools. And we competed, we played the high schools because it was always a rumble. We filled up our gymnasium. And believe it or not, man, I was a center. I was a 6'3" center. We had 2 6'4" forwards and 2 5'6" guards. And we played against the all-star team had 6'3" and 6'4" guards. They had a 6'8" center and 6'6" forwards, and they was the best of the best, man, And you know what the score ended up being? And we rocked the house that night. 100-99. We beat them.
Whoa.
You know.
Oh man.
So, I mean, like, that was like, wow. You know, for anybody who would smack you in the face and tell you you wasn't nothing, you weren't gonna never get there. For if we did it in public, in the public eye, where everybody could see, yeah, we beat the all-star team in the city who competed and was the champ. You know, so it's not, I say what you do, is how you do it and how bad you want it. And I ain't saying that was the right thing to do, but at that moment, at that time, that's what helped and carried me. But back to the craziness, the guy who sponsored our team, like I said, by night, I was doing crazy stuff, and I stuck up the dope house, and the next thing you know, he contacted Bobby, and he told Bobby, he said, I'm going to kill him. And Bobby said, man, what you talking about? He said, man, I'm going to kill him. He said, you better get him, Bobby, because I'm going to kill him. If you don't find him before I do, I'm going to kill him. And Bobby found me, and Bobby came to me and said, Pink, what in the world are you doing? I said, what are you talking about, Bobby? He said, man, hey, man, I know what you just done. Do you know who else you just stuck up? And I said, no, man. And I said, yeah, I know. And I told him, and he said, fool, that's our sponsor, you know? And, of course, Roy was one of the biggest dope men in the city, you know? So, and that's the way he had a contract on my head. Bobby ended up getting it off of me by begging him, the man, please, man, just, you know, blah, 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 blah. And the band plays on, you know, craziness. I went on through my travels and up and down the hills and down the valleys and in the mountains and swinging on the ropes in the jungle. And, you know what I'm trying to say. You know, so, and, you know, hanging on to a star, man, and, you know, going from city to city and state to state, and to find myself in Seattle, Washington, you know, one day, 19, getting ready to turn 20, woke up one morning, had just shot a damn speedball, heroin and cocaine, nodding like a crazy man, scratching. And this Mexican guy named Terry I had talked to moved over there because I had got evicted from my home in the South Seattle to the West Seattle project. And I told him that I was a fighter from the Brewster Projects with 15 fights with 15 knockouts. You know, and I'm, you know, walking around like I got skills, and I ain't got no boxing skills. I'm just a, you know, street fighter, you know. And it was funny. A couple of days later, well, Terry called me and told me, he said, Pink, you know, you need to come down to the gym. I work for Parks and Recreation. There's an old man down there. His name is Joe West. You know, he might be able to, you know, do something for you. And, you know, that was the story, man. And I took off my career. I went to Joe. I told him the same thing, nodding. And Joe told me at the bag I came in, I threw up everywhere after I ran out from my stomach bubbling up. And he laughed me out of the gym, and I told him I'm not going to come back. Now this is the godly part. I woke up that morning, and I didn't think I was going to make it through the day. And but when I had found boxing the day before, for the first time, I found something that I wanted and I could do. But the dilemma was, I moved from Michigan from being grown to Seattle, Washington at 21. So I become a minor. I hadn't graduated from high school. Now, my choice at that time, because like the Lord was like saying, okay, it's your choice, because I had the ability. But whatever I used, it was going to be 3 times as hard than the average because of where I was, my age, and what I had been through. So I'm going against the high school, the college draft, and I'm looking at the Seattle Mariners, the Seattle Seahawks, or the Seattle Supersonics. I'm looking to try out for their teams or do the boxing. So I'm saying I'm going to get beat out by the college draft. Same way with the Mariners. Nobody's going to pick me up because of who I am. But I said, you got in the boxing, you got 2 eyes and a nose, just like me, and we bleed the same blood, the same color blood. You know. And I said, all I got to do is to be the best. I just got to outwork them. I got to out-hustle them. And I said, my nerve, my heart has already been tested because I'm from the streets of Pontiac. I said, I've had 2 contracts on my head. And even the racketeers were saying, look, if this kid get in the boxing, he can't do nothing but become champion. His heart is big as this city. And I just took off like a rocket, man. And that's how my career got started. I went in one day, I used some drugs and I got jabbed and beat up. I smoked some weed, and it threw me off, my timing. I thought that was going to do a number for me. And that kind of, I got away from that. And, you know, the rest is history, man. I was trained by a pro, guy who trained nothing but pros. So I only had 3 amateur fights. And, you know, 2.5 months, all of them were in the Golden Gloves. I lost my first one with a guy named Tommy Thomas out of Walla Walla Penitentiary. He had 5 fights. You know, he beat me on a decision. But I remember we were taking a shower, and I said, hey, man, that's all right, Tommy. I'm going to get you in the Seattle Gloves. And he said, no, you're not, Pink. You hit you damn hard. I'm going down to light heavyweight. True enough, he did. And then, so the following week, no, it wasn't the following week. Yeah, it was the following week. The finals come up, and I go look at the board, and who am I fighting? A guy named Big Blue something. And I seen this guy picture. He looked like Sonny Liston, big guy, 240 pounds, 6'3". And he's from Monroe Penitentiary. And I'm saying, man, why the hell I'm fighting all these guys out of penitentiary? You know? So anyway, I fought him. I jabbed his brains out, man, beat him up. And I beat him and I won. So I was a fight away from becoming the Seattle Golden Glove champion, along with the Pacific Northwest Golden Glove champion. But again, I had a dilemma. The dilemma was it was 2 fighters. One was Boone Kirkland, and one was God dog it. Well, it was Boone Kirkland that I was working with, and we was boxing because this trainer Joe Torres wanted me to give them some work. We needed some work, and they said, Joe, man. So they said, Joe said, no, man, we ain't going. I said, come on, boy, let's get to work. We got to work, and the 3rd round, man, I was out of gas. Well, Boone was getting ready to fight. He was getting ready to fight a 10-round fight somewhere. So all I could see, you know, boom, we wore shoulder pads, you know, when he boxed. So I seen his punch coming, but I couldn't get the hell away from it. Then and boom, it was like 15 seconds left, and I got hit. I fell back on the ropes, and that was it. I go to the corner. I tell Joe. I said, look, Joe. I said, man, I cannot close my mouth tight. My jaw is killing me. And he told me to move my mouth around, blah, blah, blah. And really, bottom line, come to find out, my jaw was broke. So, but I didn't know that going into the fight 2 days later, right? So then that's when I fought Blue, and then we went to Joe's house, and his wife had made a big meal and this, that, and the other. So we took off. In the meantime, I'm laying there with an ice pack on my jaw for a couple of hours while he watching the football game. I'm in pain. You know. So then his wife said, well, is the food ready? So we go to eat, and I can't bite down on my food. So I'm starving. So he tell Martha to get a cup of noodle soup. It hadn't been too long, came out with that. He said, drink the juice and suck down all the noodles. I said, okay, Joe. So I did. And when I did this, I told the story 100 times, and you probably heard it. But this is the truth, you know? So I took down the noodles, and I went back to sleep for about an hour and a half. He told me, well, we got a little time. So we left. And when we left, we got in the car, we took off, we stopped at the drugstore. I said, what are we stopping here for? The old man said, don't worry about it. He came out with a bag. I said, what's in the bag? He said, don't worry about it. We get there to the arena. You know, I'm the heavyweight, so I'm fighting the last fight. So they call me to wrap in my hands. Joe wrapped my hands. They come, they check my hands. Joe tell me, he pulls my mouthpiece out, and he tells me that right on my tooth, he told me like to bite down. And it was what it was. He had went and got some Imprim aspirin and some Red Cross medicine. And he took the Imprim aspirin. He told me to bite down on it with my mouthpiece, and he poured the Red Cross medicine on it. And I went into the fight. 1 minute, 56 seconds of the first round. I had this guy down twice before I knocked him out cold. And that was because he was headbutting me, he was lacing me, he was hitting me right on the nerve when my jaw was broke. And after the fight was over, we went to the flame. We was going to do the safe thing. And I couldn't eat. And that morning I woke up and I looked like Ali after the Frazier fight. I went to the hospital and they wired me up. And I was wired up for 8 weeks. Come to find out they didn't pull the tooth, so they had to wire it back up for another 6 weeks. And, you know, so the plan was then Greg Page was the national champion, and the Nationals was going to be held in Honolulu. And all the Golden Glove champions was in line to fight, fight in the tournament. But Joe knew I wasn't ready. I knew I wasn't ready. So Joe, we planned a great trip to go down to the Main Street Gym in California. And that's where we went. We went to California, me, Roland, his 2 kids, Mike and Kimmy. And we went down there and went to Disney World first, and we hung out after my jaw healed, of course. And they set up a promotional group for me. And I went down there and I trained for 8 weeks. I trained with Eddie Lopez and a couple other guys. And, I even seen Stallone come in with his leather coat and flip hat on with the script in his hand. Talking about, hey, Benny. Talking about Benny Barbino, who was training Daniel Red Lopez. He was in the gym. And they were training. And he went to, hey, Benny, they got the script from me. They want me to sell them the script. He said, well, how much they going to give you? He said, $450. He said, fool, why don't you take it? He said, no, I ain't taking it, man. You crazy. He said, they ain't going to do nothing but change things around. So, the history of that,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I trained for 8 weeks, went back to Seattle, had my first professional fight, fought a guy named Canelo, who outweighed me by about 45 pounds. He weighed 243. I had 7-1 as a amateur, and big boy, and I beat him on a decision. And the rest is history, man. And my career just took off.
Pretty cool. I just wanted to ask you about that pro debut you made, Pinklon, against the guy with a 7-1 record. That sounds pretty risky to me for a first fight as a pro, and really because you only had 3 amateur fights according to what we read. You won the fight by split decision. What is there anything else you remember about that fight that was significant? I mean, your pro debut.
Yeah, you know what I remember? I remember after training hard as hell for 8 weeks, man, I missed my hell out of my wife, So as I come back the last week, and 3 days before, they say, be cool, sustain, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at it as a miss, as a lot of young guys did. And I think that was the reason why it was a split decision and not a knockout. Because, of course, I had my day with her, 2 or 3 days before, and, man, I didn't have no jab, But the only thing I had was this good little jab that kept me out of trouble.
Pinklon, your first 19 fights were against, like most guys, nondescript opponents, and you won them all. And then you got Quick Tillis, who was 22-1, fought him in Cleveland, and you stopped him in the 8th round. Looking back, do you consider that your coming out party as a boxer?
Well, I fought Alfonso Radlef on NBC, and I think Duva and them had set up that fight. And at that particular fight, I was 16-0, something like that. And after being interviewed, they interviewed me, and they said, well, Pink, you fought everybody I put in front of you, blah, 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 because I didn't have a promoter at that one particular promoter or manager. They said, what do you want to do now? And I told him I wanted to fight Larry Holmes because Larry was, fighting everybody, and he wasn't fighting nobody who meant something, and he was getting ready to fight Lucian Rodriguez up in Scranton, where he stayed. And I put him out there. I told the commentators, I said, I want to fight Larry. I said, I'll be in a gray suit with a pink tie. You won't be able to miss, And from that point on, Larry started running from me. So, I probably was my own worst enemy. Huh? I probably was my own worst enemy, man, Because, I embedded all that in the head because every time I lifted peanut head, Larry Holmes, I told him, man, boy, I'm going to get you. And the beef that I had with him was when he fought Muhammad Ali. And, it just hurt me to my heart. I cried like a baby. And the Seattle Coliseum, I had only had one pro fight. And I promised myself, me and God, I said, if he's around, when I'm around, I'm going to mop the floor with him. And I think he felt my feelings. And I showed him my feelings at the time I seen him with my eyes or body language. And like I said, I probably talked my way out of the fight. Today, I respect him I respect him. He did his number. As a champion, a true champion, no, hell no. Me personally, as one individual person, you can have the different attitude. Like, hey, man, he fought every. Hey, man, I agree with you. Him and Ken Norton was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen in the history of boxing. For the USBA championship. But, son, he didn't fight me.
Mm.
You know, from the time I was 16, 17, 19, when I beat James Cook Tillerson, he was at ringside. He was supposed to give Tillis a shot, and I mopped the floor with Tillis. Then he ran off. He said, man, he's probably 100 miles away. So he zoomed off. He started fighting Scott Fraser, Marvis Scott Swain, Marvis Fraser, different ones like that. You know? So, I mean, like, if I would have had the opportunity, I mean, I'll forget about it, man. You know, my wife today said, think, you know, that's over. It's history, man. You know, I mean, the bottom line, man, I can hug at her and say, oh, you know, that was it. But from me personally, as a person in my life and my career, where I come from, what I stand for, no. I didn't get what I went out for. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get it. The opportunity wasn't there. So a lot of people probably feel like that. Because if I would have got it, if I would have fought him, and of course I would have beat him, then my whole life would have changed. My whole career would have changed. You know? And all that on my belt. But anyway, that's history, and we'll go past Larry on. I love you, Larry.
Hey, so after you beat Tillis, you got a fight in Atlantic City against Harry Coetzee, who was, John and I remember him. He was a really rugged South African. And by the time he fought you, he'd already beaten Leon Spinks. He fought John Tate and Mike Weaver. He lost a decision to Weaver. He knocked out Scott Ledoux. Those are tough opponents. So he had a lot of experience. The judges scored that one a draw. What are your memories of that fight against Harry Coetzee?
Well, the deal was on that fight was Bob Arum had, he was the only heavyweight Bob Arum had. And I was with Lou Duva, and I wasn't with Don, and I was the only heavyweight probably wasn't locked up with Don. So Don, after the Tillis fight, Don was expecting Lou and them to bring me to him. But Lou said, hell no, we're going to Bob Arum. We're going to fight Coetzee. So that's how the fight come together. So the deal was that, me and Larry started going back and forth because I signed to fight Coetzee. He was saying I was fighting in South Africa. And I said, yeah, but I'm staying over here and I'm fighting at the Atlantic City. He was offered to fight him over in South Africa, and he was ready to go for the apartheid thing. And I wasn't going to go, no matter what. So anyway, the bottom line is they relocated him over to the Brigantine, made him a resident for him to be over here for us to fight. So now, Cedric Kushner and Lou Duva come together, and they make the fight, and the fight goes off. Of course, I started late. Man, I got up out of the bed after 6 days, man. I had a bad cold, and I had been seeing a chiropractor almost every day. And that was the third time that the fight had been postponed. So CBS was getting ready to squash the fight. I didn't take the fight that time. First it was him, he broke his hand. Then it was me, my back was injured. Then it was me again. So anyway, I had to take the fight. So I got up and, the myth was, they say, well, you got to start slow, with the cold because, it's going to come on later on. So me and Georgie done trained. Georgie done told me what I should do. He didn't tell me to start slow. He just gave me the remedy and the recipe and said, go out there and cook, baby, And, of course, I'm sitting up here going on what I should do. So I laid back like a dummy for about 4 or 5 rounds, trying to, I was figuring out where he was coming from. I knew he had great power. I wanted to see, if I could sustain it, if he was strong enough to move me, if I was strong enough to hang. And I seen I was there, and I come back in the 5th round, And Georgie Benton, you know, Georgie Benton said, what the hell you doing? What you doing? He said, you're going to lose this damn fight. He said, if you don't pick it up now, man, you know, you're going to lose this fight. He said, you got to go out. He said, throw left hook, right hand with this guy. Stop him throwing that right hand. And that's what I did. I started left hooking right hand after that, man, the fight picked up. Boom! 8th round, I split him. I mean, split him. And after that, it was ongoing. I just put pressure on him. So I gave up, I guess, the early round. But the later rounds, you know, he took a bath in blood, man. You know, who should have won that? Of course, I feel that, you know, I feel I should have got the decision. But it was political, you know, and I could understand it. So we rolled with the flow. What else was going on? I mean, Larry was running from me. None of the heavyweights would fight me, you know. So I was on my own. That's some of the Pinklon Thomas story.
Yeah, you won 4 in a row over the next 18 months, and you were 24-0 when you got your first world title shot against terrible Timmy Witherspoon. You beat him by a majority decision. I remember that was a really good fight. What kind of moment, if you can describe it the best you can, Pinklon, was that for you to win the world heavyweight title?
Hey man, you know that was it, man. I mean, what can you say? But you know what was funny was the preparation of the fight. I had Kenny LaCousta, who was a former heavyweight champion over in Canada, and Art Savage out of Philly was sparring partners, and another kid. And 2 days before the fight, his trainer Johnny Taco was in Las Vegas, and I got hit with a shot, and because Kenny was a left hooker, and I got hit with the left hook, and I started seeing doubles, and my eye kept burning. I was going crazy, and for them 2 days, it was really worrying the hell out of me, you know. But what I couldn't do, I couldn't say nothing to Don. I couldn't say nothing to my trainers. I couldn't say nothing to nobody. So I went on into the fight, fought the fight. After the fight was over, went to the hospital. No, didn't go straight to the hospital. After I won the championship, we had a conference up in Montreal, Canada. Macho, Leon, Ray, everybody was up there. We hanging out. And I had a security guy named Philly. And we was walking, it's real hilly up there. And he jumped from one side to another. I said, get on my right side, man. You know? And he threw up your hand. And he threw his hand up. I said, now come back over to the right. Come back over to the left. And he threw up his hand. And he said, dang, bud, what's going on? I said, go back over to the right. I said, throw up your hand. And then I said, go back to the right. He said, dang, bud, what's going on? And I said, Pete, I said, man, something wrong, man. I can't see your right hand. Yeah, out of my right side, I can't see your hand. He said, oh, no. So I went to the Eyes Hospital in Philadelphia. It was all over. When I went there, boom, had emergency surgery. I had a detached retina. So now, the brutal moment. I won the heavyweight championship of the world. You see where the hell I had been. You see what it took for me to get there. Now, I got to call Don King and tell Don King that I got a detached retina. So I called Don. He said, what's going on, baby? I said, Don, man, I got a problem. Well, what's happening, baby? What's going on? I said, man, I got a detached retina. Oh, man. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that, Pete. Man, I guess you're going to have to retire. I said, are you crazy? how did that not work to get here? All the things, all the trouble I've been through, and now you tell me I'm going to retire. I said, how long can I hold my belt? He said, 4 years. I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. I said, when I have to fight the number one contender. And he set it up. And that's how I end up, going into the next fight.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, too. I mean, that's a shocking story about having a torn retina. What else? Was there other things going on, or detached retina, I'm sorry, other things going on in your life? I mean, you're the heavyweight champion of the world. How was the other things? I mean, you had kicked. Had you kicked drugs at this point? I have to ask, or was it still kind of an issue?
No, it was a skeleton in the closet, man. It was a skeleton in the closet. I ain't gonna lie, man. Celebrated by day, used by night, what have you. Craziness and stuff like that. I went on to fight Mike Weaver. Really I trained hard. I was in Atlantic City, trained there for 8 weeks, got ready, took him out, and after that, that's when I began to go through some personal problems. I was in the music studio making music out in California, Me and my first wife, we were having problems, and we had separated, and then the word was to Dr. Angelo that, he wasn't going to get paid behind the Burbick fight. So Angelo didn't come to the fight, which was crazy. So I felt like now I'm at the fight. I'm used to him, or, my wife, my kids, come on, Pete, come on, Dad, blah, blah, blah. The crowd cheering. And now I'm in a fight after the third or fourth round. And I'm missing the hell out of Angelo because he's a motivator. He's an inspirator. He'll give you little gets to pull yourself out. I'm missing him. I'm missing my wife, I'm missing my son. And it was the toughest fight of my life. It was the worst 12 rounds I had ever been through. The worst 12 rounds I had ever been through.
I see.
And then I lose the decision by 2 points. But, it was because of that. I think either one was there. If she was there with my son or if Angela was there, I think I probably would have pulled it off. I just needed a little bit more push.
Yeah.
After you lost your title to Burbick, how did that affect you?
Oh, terrible, man. That's when terrible. That's when I was just on the brink of doing craziness. I did some real serious and crazy stuff. That's where I got to lead you to Back from the Edge of Hell in my book. You just have to pick up the book. You have to read the story, man. Because, I mean, I was gone. I was gone, man. I did some things, and only through the grace of God that I'm still here today to talk about them. So, I don't even like talking about it no more because it almost sounds like I'm boasting about it. I just have to say get the book, and I'm not trying to sell you on the book. It's called Back from the Edge of Hell, man. You just have to pick it up and read it. I can't even get into it, and the book will tell you, and, where I've been from there. After that, when I fought him, I fought 3 more fights, and I fought Tyson, and I fought Holyfield, and I fought, I think it might have been Bo or Morrison, and then one or the other. And I was on my way out, man. I was just looking to get paid. And then I went out on the drugs real bad, man, I went out on the drugs December of, it wasn't December, I'm sorry. It was my birthday, February the 10th, 1989. February the 10th, 1989. Well, February the 9th, from the 5th through the 9th, I was in a smokehouse. I was in a smokehouse. I was down where Aaron Pryor was laid on the ground and they found him. I was gone. I don't want to tell you the whole story, you know. All I can say is that only through the grace, man, that I'm here. It gave me enough strength to pull myself up by the bootstrap and make it back to my place where I stayed. To call a treatment center in Michigan, to network myself into treatment, to go see a lady who I didn't really know. The woman who I was with had left me. This lady, an Italian lady, took care of me for 3 days, kept me clean, took me to the airport before the 9/11 thing, walked me through the gate to the plane, waited till they pulled the hatch down, and watched me take off. And I was flying to go to treatment. I went to treatment, and I never looked back. Today, for February the 10th, if it's God's will, one day at a time, keeping it very simple, I will be 31 years.
Fantastic. Wow. I do have to ask you, though, a little bit about the Tyson fight, though, Pinklon, because there's always been stories. Yeah, okay. There's always been stories. When you fought Tyson, he was 29-0. He was Iron Mike. He was unbeatable. All that. He'd only gone the distance against Bone Crusher Smith. You were 29-1. But according to what I remember a few years later reading and what we found out, we saw when we were researching this for Dennis, you had a shoulder injury going into that fight, right? I mean, tell us the story of the Tyson fight.
Yeah, the story was I was training at Hoover Street Gym. That's where Ken Norton and different ones trained. Scrap Iron Johnson was training me, getting me ready. Going into about the 6th week, I was working with a young fighter named Mark Wills. We had Tyson style. Then Mark exchanged punches, right hands, and my shoulder popped out. I didn't know it popped out. It popped out, and I had to stop. So from there, instead of going to the hospital or seeing a medical doctor, I went to a chiropractor in Melrose, in Hollywood. Went to Melrose, seen the chiropractor. He put me in a sling, put some ice on it, told me I'd be all right in 3 days. After that, went back to boxing, doing what I was doing. And then my shoulder kept popping out. Every 2 or 3 rounds, my shoulder popped out. I couldn't hit the speed bag. It was hard for me to skip rope. So I just did bag work and I boxed until I fell apart. So I called Angelo. About 5 weeks before the fight, I said, Angelo, I said, look, man, I'm having some problems with my shoulder. I don't know what the hell is going on. He said, Pete, pull out of the fight. You don't need to fight this fight. And I said, no, Angelo. I said, I'm going to beat this bum with my left hand, And because my strategy was to fight him like Douglas did, to move on him and pop. So anyway, I couldn't do that. I had to change the style, keep my right hand on my chin. And after that, man, that's what happened, man. I got went into the fight 3 weeks before, got into the fight. We got into the fight. I'm sorry, we didn't get into the fight. Went to Las Vegas, got hooked up with Angelo, started training. I told Angelo what was happening. So me and Angelo had eye contact. Like, I let him know, man, if I look at you crazy, my shoulder done popped out. So he would call me, tell me to do something different. You know, we're training in the hotel, people looking, stuff like that. So we go into the fight. So we're at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas. It's they had built an outside dressing room and stuff, so it's you know, in the trailer. So I get my hands around, go into the fight. You know, so me and him fighting. So the first round, we know Mike, you know, he's an animal. I'm expecting him to come out like a wild man, which he do. So I get past the first round. I said, oh, well, that's a good number. So the second round, you know, I withered that. I said, wow, that's cool. The third round, you know, then I had his number a little bit, you know. So I kind of, you know, I was tying him up, you know, popping him and making him miss. So then they called it an even round. The fourth round, you know, blah, 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 we go through it. Now I got his number. I hear him puffing and blowing a little bit. You know, I win that round. I win the fourth round. The fifth round, periodically the same. At the end of the fifth round, I say, look out. I said, your butt is out now. I said, I told him I was going to take him out. And as soon as I go back to the corner and sit down, man, referee come over and tell me my glove is split. What you mean my glove is split? Thomas, your glove is split. I said, what the hell you want me to do? He said, you got to take it off. So take the glove off. I tell Angelo, cut the glove off. So they got to go get me another glove. They go get me another glove. It takes 10 minutes to get another glove. 10 minutes. The glove should have been at ringside. That's the rule. Mike cools off. He gets it, you know. I done withered the storm up until this point with my shoulder. I got him puffing and blowing. I'm ready to take him out now. I'm figuring 2 or 3 more rounds of that, and Mike wasn't going to be around. And, you know, so they come, they get the ring, they splice it. You know, they splice the magic of TV. They splice that time out. We go back in, hurry up, Angelo, the Belgian ring. Ding, they push me out. I ain't got a plan. Him and Kevin Mooney over there kissing me, hugging, and Kevin telling him, you know, with bad intentions, baby, bad intentions. And he jump all over me, you know. So, I mean, he come out, you know, doing his number. And I get hit. Bottom line, I get hit. My shoulder pops out. My shoulder is like paralyzed. I can't do nothing with it now. And now I just get hit with 16, 17, 18 unanswered punches. I go down. All I'm thinking about is not being knocked out like the rest of these bums. So I said, I'm going to get up by the count of 10. So I got up and stood up by the count of 10. No, I knew I couldn't continue, but I wasn't going to be knocked out. And that's what happened.
Tremendous.
You know, when I look at your record, Pinklon, that stretch, Tyson, Holyfield, Bowe, and Morrison in about a stretch of about 5 or 6 fights, that's got to be one of the toughest stretches any heavyweight has ever gone through. What a gauntlet that was. And then after that, I mean, you lost to Holyfield, Bowe, and Morrison, including Tyson. So after that, you go on a 13-fight winning streak, which was basically bill-paying time for you, I think, you know, because none of these guys were name-brand fighters that you were fighting there. And you fought all those guys in, I think, 6 months, right? 13 fights in 6 months.
9 months.
9 months. Okay. And then you lose to Lawrence Carter, your last fight, and you retired. How was retirement for you at first? Was that real difficult walking away from the sport, or were you just ready?
Of course it was difficult, man. Are you kidding me? And I mean, what was I going to do? I mean, I told my wife to leave. I told her to go, do something else, get away. You know, I didn't want to be bothered. And she told me, you know, she loved me. She was going to be with me no matter what. You know, boxing, but you know, she wasn't with me for boxing. You know, so she had to carry the torch. You know, behind that fight, man, I suffered a subdural hematoma, a brain injury, so I could never go back to fighting. You know, so it was over.
Yeah.
Thank
Pinklon
you.
Thomas conquered a lot of demons in his lifetime and some of the best heavyweights of his generation. He became the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. Pinklon, thanks for being so generous with your time today and sharing your story with our audience on the Ringside Boxing Show. Best wishes to you.
You bet.
Do you like this podcast? Do us a solid. Tell your boxing friends about us. Post the Ringside Boxing Show on your social media platforms. Also, if you haven't yet discovered the best website on planet Earth for daily boxing news, you got something to do right this minute. We update ringsideboxingshow.com with the biggest stories and most interesting news every single day, 365 days a year. If you're a hardcore fan, this should be your first stop every morning, and it might be the only site you need to visit all day. Discover us right now, and you will be amazed, guaranteed. ringsideboxingshow.com. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, John J. Raspanti, for their weekly contributions to this show, as well as our outstanding British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, and another huge thanks to today's featured guest, former world heavyweight champion Pinklon Thomas, who's now an inspirational speaker. He's got a great book out, too, published in 2017. Check that one out. And, of course, we want to thank you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. Keep your chin tucked, and we talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. 'Cause it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's